Hey, Nim. I joined
Hey,
voice
Mike.
so that I could just talk while I work. I keep
Well,
stopping and turning and typing.
yeah, well,
So yeah, it's always good to hang out too.
of course. Well,
Plus, he appreciates the company.
I have a question for you, Mike.
Sure.
How old are you now?
I'm 50.
50. That's so fucking awesome. And like the fact that you're still so passionate about learning stuff. I hope
Yeah, I
I'll be
can't
like
stop.
that when I'll be at 50, honestly.
You will be.
I'm not
Yeah,
that far, but I really
yeah.
hope.
He's
I really.
fucking 36.
I'm well 37, right?
Well, in mentality, you're already 70, so yeah.
Yeah, well,
We need to change that.
that's for
We need
sure.
to fucking change that.
Yeah, my
Mike,
dad is 88 years old, and he's still building shit by himself. He has a
awesome.
he has a bed and breakfast in Reunion Center, and when he was like 76, he built a what do you call them, stadium seating out at his ranch by himself, and then he tore it down when nobody used it, and then he used the wood to build a uh, like a food. What's it called? He like dug a hole in the side of his mountain, and he made one of those shelters for to keep food fresh. He did all that when he was in his late 70s. So it's
Nice.
like
Fucking awesome.
we stay young in our family for a while.
That's sheer force of will. Dear
Yeah,
God.
he's insane. He's amazing what he does. It's every day
Yeah.
he's out there though. Even like the older he gets, he can't do 12 hours now. His days have gone from 12 hours to like 6 to 4. Now he can only handle a couple hours a day, but he still does it. And it's amazing what you can accomplish just by doing a little bit every day.
Hey, Rory. A busy man lives longer. I guess I'll
Yeah.
die young.
Yeah, my mom is 85 and she's not all gray.
God, that's like I love hearing those things because in a world where I don't know everything is so I don't want to
Yeah.
say grim. I don't want to say grim, but it
Hmm.
is like that sometimes. You see a lot of diet of this, diet of that, didn't do much life, blah 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 blah, and then you get to hear these stories and they're like really heartwarming because if you put your mind to it, you're giving two great examples at an older age, which is something I aim for, and they're still passionate about shit, and obviously they've introduced that in you, which is awesome. You're 15 and passionate and doing shit that is fucking awesome, and
Yeah. I
there's
don't. Yeah, I don't think my career is like gone. I've had a decent career, but I don't want to feel like I can't still go places or
yeah.
I've actually been a lead a few times, and I don't like it. I'd rather just produce artwork.
Yeah, that's the
Like
thing,
we were
isn't it?
So,
talking earlier.
oh,
Yeah, the goddamn artists want to, the content creators want to create content,
Yeah,
not to
absolutely.
fucking market stuff or, write emails and be in
yeah,
fucking.
yeah,
That's the curse of us, right? Because the big money come with, jumping up into leading position, right? Becoming, team lead to fucking, producer, art director, or whatever. The payment is definitely much better, but it's like you're not gonna make art anymore, which for me it's like my biggest nightmare.
yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of artists like our outsourcing managers. Well, at least one of them is like a pretty accomplished artist, and he just never really gets the chance to draw. And there's so many guys that I know that are like that who I kind of don't get it. I I just I need to create. Yeah.
Yes, Rory. And it's it's only gonna get worse. I have so many friends, right, who uh, were artists, right, and they become leads or producers and shit like that. And it's so fucking sad because they're all depressed because they're not making art anymore.
Hmm.
I have only one
They're more
dude,
responsible.
the one who's producer at Ubisoft. That dude was less into art, more into managing people. Like for him, it actually worked. But most of the artists that I know that went into leading position, they were like all burning out, you know. Because you do this shit because you're passionate about this, right? Like when you start, it starts as a hobby, right? You're not jumping into this with the idea that you're gonna have a team of people that you're gonna manage. You're starting this with the idea that you're gonna create amazing stuff in 3D, right? Or 2D, or because it applies to every fucking thing in the world, right? And the moment when you switch from actually making stuff to managing people and being in meetings and writing emails all day, the fun stops.
Yeah. I know our art director. He he's a great art director, I think, because for several reasons. One of them, he just doesn't get emotional about anything, and he's very intelligent, and he just makes good decisions. Plus, he continues to educate himself as well. He took a anatomy class that was very involved from like a local teacher who just gave him one-on-one, and so he knows the anatomy better than just about anybody in the class. I mean, at the studio, which helps him help correct things immediately.
Yeah, well, it's always very important to keep yourself updated with the industry and with the tools that we have, right? Especially for those in leading positions, right? Because if you stray away for too long, and too long means a few years, like 2-3 years, everything changes. This fucking industry evolves so fast that it's very difficult to keep the pace, right? Even for someone who's in the industry, right? There are people who work in the industry as artists, right? Not in leading position, and because they're so accustomed with the workflow that they have there, right? They wake up one day that they lost their job and they have no fucking clue what other studios do.
Yeah. People have definitely sailed past me, but I don't let it get to me because I kind of realize that it's a whole different game now. No pun intended. And I was
sailed past you,
sailed past me as in like they've passed me right up. So, for example, I was at Volition, and I was a character artist there, and I wanted to be a concept artist. And the art director loved me, but I understood shaders and I knew how to like make the art look as good as possible in the game. And he said, and he would hire a kid right out of school who wasn't even that good of an artist, and they'd be a concept artist. And they didn't appreciate what they had, or and they kind of walked around proud, and they have the job that I've been trying to get my entire career, that sort of thing. So I ended up coming here because it was the first place I wasn't even looking for work. They actually contacted me because I worked with Rich Barham at 2015, and he remembered my art, like the dedication. Like I remember I'd work late, and he'd see me all the time, and so he
for sure.
So he remembered, and they wanted me as a concept artist. So when they started the company, I was the first person they hired as a production artist. Like it was they hired a lead artist, and they hired me, and that was it. Like for a while. So I was on R&D for a long time before the game got going, but yeah, it's just the same principles as anything. But I'm not as good or fast as a lot of the guys, but I'm constantly getting better, which is good enough.
Yeah,
and I'm capable, and I'm competent.
You're
think
gonna
that-
get there in no time, man. With your background, I don't see how you're not gonna get up to date with all the tools and everything in no time. Because you have
Thanks, man.
all that base there, right? You didn't lost that knowledge. You just put it away to become a concept artist, right? But you're gonna get back there in no time. I have no
Yeah.
fucking doubt. I see how passionate you are to learn the new software, right? You dived into Topogon, you dived into fucking Rhythm. So it's
I love it. That's cool.
I actually
Thanks.
think that most people underestimate and undervalue the value in being different, and that goes for everything, right? You look at people like Feng Zhu or Feng Zhu or Feng Zhu, the guy from that famous design school where everyone apparently that gets out of there is like, another cheap in, well, they do these amazing concepts and stuff, but you look at them and literally you see everything is exactly the same. It's a byproduct of, everything they put down their throats in that school. And there's nothing wrong in there, right? As long as you can break away from that. And I value probably more someone like you that has, this whole rich experience of background that makes you unique. Because we're all fucking unique, that old saying that, the graveyard is filled of unreplaceable people. Well, we're all replaceable to a point. Well, but we're not actually, in fact, because we're all different. We all have a valuable experience and a sum of those experiences that makes us unique, right? So, in a ways, I wouldn't say you have anything to, be afraid or whatever, because at the end of this journey that you're at to get to be a concept artist, whatever, you'll be way different than everyone else. And I'm very sure that among I don't know how many billion people in this world, a lot of them will see a lot of value in your work. I was never worried about oh God, but this guy, Jesus, this art style or whatever. I need to define an art style and be better than. I'll try, yes, of course, to stand out from the crowd, which is something we should all aspire to do because it is important that we have something to offer that, kind of stands out. And we were having this conversation the other day about looking at someone's art style and say, "Oh, this is from that guy," which is kind of hard in 3D, and I get it. But the main thing should be as you're doing it because you're passionate about it and you have something to offer, right? And I'm pretty sure people will value that a lot more than getting a kid from one of those schools that knows nothing about nothing, and all he can do is probably spit out concepts really fast, but still being formatted by whatever school he just came from. So that's just my 2 cents. I could be completely wrong, but
Mike is trying to get back into 3D, Raul, not into 2D. He already achieved
that. Yeah. Sorry, I thought it was
no, it's applicable anecdotes. So yeah, it's all good.
Hey, Rela.
It still applies, right? So,
hey, keyboard. What's up, guys?
Having all that background you have in, from 2D, you pick up 3D like in a second, right?
I've done 3D, so my experience was I did stuff for like PlayStation and N64, so I started with really crude 3D and it was terrible stuff. And so I got to the point where I specialized as a texture artist, and I always loved modeling, but I was never really what we'd like really clean. It wasn't my strong suit, but I always loved it. And so tinkering with ZBrush, I had a roommate who was the lead figure artist there for a long time at ZeniMax, and he said, "Man, you got to do ZBrush. You blow it up." And I always wanted to, and so I just kind of got into it. Several years ago I bought it, and then I just kind of messed with it, and so it's been kind of a tinkering thing. And I sat next to this guy who, this figure artist, who I would go home and I'd learn how to do something. I'd come back and I'd know something that he didn't know how to do, and he was like, "Oh my God, you learned that last night?" Like, yeah, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of yeah, if you get into it, you're gonna learn. That's all it is. It's like, and I was talking to my buddy Joe at work who said, he said, once you learn how to learn it, you can apply it anywhere. So you're not intimidated about learning something new, because I think most people who get intimidated by software or getting good at drawing or learning anatomy or whatever it is, they just haven't figured out how to learn yet, or they haven't tried it.
Most likely,
it's
they
like a
haven't
habit.
tried it.
Yeah, that's it, and that's what it's daunting. But as soon as they do it,
people are having like this mentality of, like, especially the beginners, right? That if they spend too much time learning something, that means they suck. So they prefer not to spend any time learning something. When in reality, you need to spend a lot of time to learn and be good at something, right? Nothing happens overnight.
Yeah.
But it's like this.
but you enjoy the process.
This fear of failure, for a lot of young people who are jumping into this, is the fear of failing, right? Because even for someone with a lot of experience, when you start working for a while, your model will look like trash, right? At the beginning. So we understand, once you get experience, you understand that the first 20 hours of sculpting a likeness, that dude is not going to look at all with what you're trying to do, right? But for a young artist, those 20 hours will be probably like 50 hours, and there will be 50 hours where he will get more and more frustrated. He will not understand that he needs to push himself to continue working and to learn. That's why they just drop, right? They're like, oh, I sculpted 3 hours, it doesn't look like what I'm trying to do. Fuck it, I'm not gonna learn this.
That's the thing, is that I tell people that they come into it with the wrong expectation. Like I'm sure you get it all the time on your stream. People would ask me all the time on my stream, like, what's the shortcut to getting good as fast as possible?
Yeah,
I'm like, man, you're missing the entire point. You can't do that. You can't be experienced without having experiences.
There's a thing or two to be said about why that happens also, and I would say that it's mainly because of this whole global mentality of being constantly connected and bombarded with artwork from other people, right? How many people do you follow on ArtStation, right? If you say, like, I don't know, let's say even a small number like 200 or 100, which is not the case, I'm pretty sure. And by you, I mean you all, right? And if every one of those artists posts something daily, right? Or even, let's say, half of those, which is by now 50, post something a day, then you get bombarded with 50 artworks at a time, right? And then you have all sorts of levels and different people and different, artworks to contemplate. And let's say you're into portrait likenesses, like we were speaking now, and we were talking about now, and you see something or someone like Vimal or Corchetta, I can say his name, can't pronounce his names correctly, sorry, or I don't know, Chris Costa, or someone who's doing a good job, and you look at it and they say, oh, I did it in 8 hours. Immediately, unfortunately, what resonates inside people's minds, especially young artists, is shit. That dude did it in 8 hours. I've been here for like a week and I can't get past the alien state of the sculpt. What's wrong with me? I'm gonna give up, right? And believe it or not, I think it would be easier to live in a time and place where none of this was available to you, because that way you can literally focus on yourself, your artwork, and your skills, and growing them into becoming someone better and enjoying the journey, as you just so well mentioned right now.
Yeah.
But did they ask how much he spent to learn?
Well, but people don't do that now, do they? Because if they did, maybe they would realize that. But no one does that.
It's what it happens here on the stream all the fucking time, right?
Yep.
There's people coming here, hey, your work is amazing. And then they ask the question, like, for how long have you been done this, right? And then I say 21 years, and they're like, oh shit. Like,
bye.
Oh, you don't get fucking good overnight. You don't improve your skills overnight. Of course.
What I hate is when people ask me my age, and they go, oh, I have this much time to get better, that kind of a thing. I remember when I was in my mid-20s, people would ask me, how old I was, and they're like, oh, well, I'm 18, and then they just relax, like they have all this time. Like, it's not about that,
Yeah, not at all.
and also, like, as far as, just like the speed thing, like being able to post things you can do in 8 hours. I was watching that Jamie Lee Lloyd guy that you shared yesterday. It's amazing.
Oh yeah.
And like how quick his process is. I'm like, you know what though? Like he wasn't that fast. I mean, I know it was time lapse, but
No,
like
yeah, it was
everything was like he had a system, and it was like he went into it and it was just right. Like every step was right. But that he didn't go in there and do
Well,
everything right the first time. He
let's-
watched a million YouTube videos.
Let's put
People
it the
forget
other
about
way. Jamie Lee Lloyd spent 2 years working on that character.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. People
Yeah,
forget
and
that.
the knife was probably like, nothing to him.
The
Like,
knife was a few hours, but he spent 2 years working on that character because he has a job and he works from time to time on his personal work.
Yeah.
But even if he would have made it, from scratch, he would still have pushed to probably like 300 hours of work with all the details that he put into that.
Yeah.
I had this art teacher at school. He was incredible. His name's Leon Parson. He's a wildlife artist, but like he can do anything. Like he's the best portrait artist I've ever seen. And there was one of these assignments that you had to render out a bowling ball with the eggs around it that would reflect in the bowling ball, and it was all about learning form and shadow and cast shadow and reflected light and shadow and all that. So there was this one kid who he did the best one. He spent something like 200 hours on his, and he asked Leon if he would trade him one of his drawings for his 200-hour drawing. And so he gave him one that he did in 15 minutes. And so this whole student, all the students who adored this one student were so mad that like he traded something that he took him 15 minutes. So he just told the class, he goes, I took 40 years to do that drawing.
Exactly. It took me 40 years. Exactly. That's it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I've heard that anecdote in other forms, but that's that was my real life experience with it. Like it actually happened, and so people would kind of shut up when he'd say that. He goes, "That took that guy 200 hours. That's nothing. I spent 40 years getting this, figure drawing." And
I have a friend like that too. Like he spent a lot of time working on his pencil art. Now he people say it's fake.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I will show it to you.
Hej då. Hej Flatron.
Anyway, that was fun talking about this stuff today.
Is that so,
Yeah.
Corona? Is that so? If I'm criticizing someone else's artwork, it's because of my insecurity, not because I want my students and the rest of the people who are watching this channel to actually learn what not to do. Not me. Why I'm excluded from what you said there. I think, and I've said this so many times, as a beginner, one of the most important things you need to learn is how to take feedback like a man, and how to develop this critic eye and understand when someone else is doing something fucked up and how to improve it, because if you're gonna only get positive feedback, you're gonna end up doing shit all your life, and you will never know.
There's this. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go say that.
So there's this artist. I was working at Sapphire, and this guy just found I had a website that was art centered, and so and I had a small community going, and so this guy wanted to get in the industry, and he found my email, and he sent me some of his 3D work, and I gave him a pretty harsh critique. I said, I don't, and so I didn't hear back from him, and something like a year or two later, he sent me an email with he says, "Hey, I work over at Yahoo Studios now. Here's the work I'm doing," and it was amazing work, And then it was just kind of him like showing me like how far how good he got, because he was like, "I'll show you," kind of a thing. And so I was like, okay, well, that was great. I said, obviously, I was wrong, because I told him I don't think he had it in him. I don't know if he was a little kid or if he was older with like no talent, or if he wasn't trying. But either way, like, I don't know if you have what's in you. I don't know if you have it in you. And so he doubled down and he did really great stuff. And then I hear about him. And then a podcast, a friend of mine, he was the lead. He was our principal character artist. He said, "Dude, you gotta check out this podcast. You made this guy's career." And so it was this podcast where they interviewed Josh Singh. I don't know if you know who he is. And he tells this story about how this guy gave him this harsh critique.
That feedback?
Yeah, and he said that this guy tore me to shreds. He goes, my wife came in and it was 3 a.m, and
yeah, because
this guy just tore me to shreds.
I can almost quote Josh Singh saying that.
Yeah, I had downloaded Josh Singh's like demos and stuff, and I didn't know this. Like, I had watched him, do this stuff, and then so he's like, "Yeah, this guy Mike May, he works at like," and he couldn't remember the name of the studio, but he says, "Yeah, man, I sent him this email, and like he tore me to shreds, and like my wife came in and saw me crying, like, what's wrong, that kind of thing."
Let me get this straight, because it's pretty funny. Yeah. Sorry. I'm getting way too excited about this because this brings back memories. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I actually contacted Josh and I said, "Dude, like, I can't believe that, it's just a story of like how he could have taken that critique and given up."
Yeah, but he didn't. Yeah, he took
it. He didn't.
Yeah.
He used it as fuel.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I remember I was listening to that interview, and I remember that actually resonates with me, because every time people say something nice, I don't know how to react. But if you say something that is accurate, let's put it this way, and it's harsh, I kind of take it as, "I'll prove you wrong, motherfucker," right? And
yeah.
And I remember him saying, like, I was a salesman and I wanted to get into this industry, and I thought I could sweet talk my way into the industry.
Yep, that's what he said.
But then I sent this guy an email with my portfolio because I wanted to get into the studio or whatever, and the guy completely trashed me. And I said, well, fuck me, but what am I going to do now? So I picked up this 3ds Max book and I started redoing my whole portfolio.
Yep.
And I was like,
the interview totally. Yeah.
I know it also.
So
you know it also, Georgian. Yeah.
So how I told you, I think it was yesterday, I told you that, a few days ago, I told you that I had a teacher who had a friend who went through school and, the art center. Remember I told you that? About how he wasted his whole career. So he came back and, he got like hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And then he came back and he said, "Why didn't anybody tell me that I sucked?" He's like, "Yeah, it would have hurt my feelings." He goes, "But now I've got this huge debt and I got to go figure out what I'm going to do with my life all over again. I got to go figure out, what my career path is going to be." And so this teacher of mine had told me this story. He's like, "Yeah." And he goes, "I don't hold back." He says, "If I don't think you have it, I'm going to tell you." And so that's why I told Josh what I did. I'm like, I'm not going to waste this guy's life by, rubbing his back and holding his hand. I'm like, "Look, man, like, you either got to dig deep or you got to just do something else, because I don't think you have it in you." And so, he showed me.
You're pretty new here, Mike, right? But this is what I'm doing here, right?
Yeah, no, I get it.
Everyone here in the channel got trashed, right? And I destroyed their hopes and dreams, and some would take them, some will understand it, and they're gonna double up their effort and will eventually become
get hurt.
Fucking amazing artists. And some got upset, and they're still at the same level as before. Yep. But you can definitely see that people who understand that a good critique is the one that's honest and not bullshit you. Like, yeah, you're doing a good job, keep going. Are the ones who will actually succeed. It's a thing that I've always did, right? I've tutored people, right? Like the first student I had was a young dude when I was at my first job, right, in 3D industry, which was in 2006, 2005, something like that. So I had this kid joining, right? And I pushed him always, right? Like I always told him when he's fucking rubbish and whatnot, and when he's doing something good, I praise him because, you know, it was meant to happen. And now he's an amazing artist, right? He's an amazing prop artist. He worked on all kind of really big titles, right? From Call of Duty to, you know, Dishonored and whatnot. So the idea is that you always need to be honest in criticism, and you as the person, as you get the criticism, you need to understand that the person who takes time to actually fucking give you that critique, he doesn't want to hurt you, right? It's his point is not to make you fucking cry or, you know, destroy you for his own fucking amusement. He's gonna be harsh with you because he wants you to get better and understand what you need to improve. And the channel learned that. Like they know in general when someone is posting a link like, hey Nim, can you give me a critique of that? They're starting, are you sure you want to do that?
Yeah. That's what you said yesterday when this guy is like, are you sure? Yeah, there was this artist on Cape Cod that he was an amazing painter, and I lived right like a few houses away when I saw him painting, and I said, can I show you some of the work I do? And he said, I'll tell you something right now, you know, you might be good, but he goes, I'm not your mom and I'm not your best friend, so I'm going to tell you what, you know, I think. I'm like, okay. So that was the first honest critique that I think I ever had. I was so used to everybody saying, oh my gosh, you're so good, you know, but he tore my stuff down.
If that's not the best way,
and I loved it.
I don't know what is.
You can't get precious about your stuff. What you do now doesn't matter in a year. It just matters.
You're gonna
now,
hate it anyway,
it's a
don't
step.
worry.
Yeah.
Like whatever the fuck you're doing now, you're gonna hate it in a year.
I usually hate it, even when I just started. So let alone by the time I finish. So
Yeah, if you didn't hate it, means you are not advanced.
If you get, you know, the snowflake mode, and you get offended because someone will try to put you on the right direction, then you're gonna have a very hard time getting there. Don't get me wrong, there are people who manage to work by themselves and, you know, without any kind of critique and dodge all the bullets, right? But it's better to have a very strong feeling about a critique session. That I'm joking so many times, right? When I'm telling my students and shit like that I prefer to scream at them and, you know, make them feel like shit, because, you know, the memories will go into long-term memory because of the association with strong feelings, right? Yeah. And, you know, being casual and saying, yeah, you're doing a good job, that's not gonna go into long memory ever, right? But if I fucking destroy you because you did something wrong, and you know, you will remember for sure that, rather than, you know, random stuff. But again, I have so many students who come with a background of getting feedback from amazing artists that didn't give a fuck, right? And they kept with such good work. Keep going, you're doing amazing. They have no clue that they're doing wrong, and it's sad, right? Because they usually end up crying when after my feedback. Hey,
yeah, it happens. No, I love it. I love honest feedback. I once had a teacher tell me, I had a painting up on the wall, you know, with everyone else's, and he looked at it and he turned around and he looked at me and he just looked at it. And he turned around and he said, in front of the whole class, he said, "What do you say when something is so bad you don't know what to say?" And everybody was like, "Oh," it crushed me, but it was like, wow, like, yeah, I didn't, I didn't uh, treat it all precious after that. I was all precious about that painting up until that point. I fixed it, or I started over. I can't remember.
It's always like that. Hey, we tend to get too attached to what we're doing, right? And
Yeah.
like I was telling my students at some point, right? Don't be afraid to put the fucking brush and sculpt, right? Don't be afraid to destroy what you build up so far, right? Because for a beginner, usually they get to a point where it looks decent, right? And they're afraid to do the extra step of damage or destroying stuff more because they're afraid they're gonna ruin the whole model, right? So every small thing that they're doing, they're like, oh, maybe I should not do it, right? Don't be afraid to destroy your work. Don't be afraid to push its limits. You can always go back to a previous version if you fuck it up, but most likely you won't, you know. Most likely you'll improve everything by
Yeah,
pushing
you don't
your...
get worse by doing more. Yeah.
Well, maybe you do. Be right back. I need some coffee.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, what Roy said.
Man, I can't believe that was you telling that to Josh. 'Cause it's like, Jesus.
Funny. I mean, as soon as my friend Chris sent me this and I started listening to the podcast, I'm like, holy shit, that's that kid.
Yeah,
You know, because I'm listening to it, and I'm like, I remember that, and I felt terrible because the guy showed me his art, and I remember saying, like, I emailed him back, and I said, obviously I was wrong, like, good job to you, like, way to
Yeah.
take it to the next level, and he didn't reply to me. So, I just
Yeah,
thought
that
that he
was
was,
like,
and I think it was fine. Like, I'm like,
I'm
if that's
not
what it
waiting
took,
for
then
an
that's fine.
answer. Yeah.
Take it personal.
Yeah, I'm like, and so like he might have taken it personal against me, but I'm like, you know what? Good for you. I'm glad that you got better. You don't need to be my friend anymore. You don't need to be my friend or anything. But and so I remembered that as an example of how something I said I think fueled something. It also was an example of how wrong I was. So I actually was careful about critiques after that. And after he told his story, I kind of started getting back to where I was less afraid to be honest. I'd always try and, like, when somebody come with something, I try to talk about the good things before I kind of got into the bad.
Or
So
take it like a
have
sandwich
tact.
approach, right? Where you
Yeah,
put positive, some
yeah.
criticism.
But I always think about that guy on Cape Cod, who said, "I'm not your mother and I'm not your best friend."
Yeah, yeah. No, but
So as long as you start with that, it's like, look, I'm not here to make you feel good. I'm
yeah,
here,
I'm not sure
and
that's good.
and so don't take it bad. Don't feel bad because of this. I'm here to help, and I'm going to help by being honest. You can take it or leave it. So yeah.
That actually settles the the verbal agreement. Let's put it that way, right? I'm not your mother. I'm not your best friend. I'm here to sugarcoat your shit. I'm going to give you my honest opinion. Take it like a champ or not. It's up to you. But if I'm telling you this is, well, if I'm taking the time, or this is, even if the person didn't say it, I would understand it this way. But if I'm taking the time to give it to you, then trust me, I'm being honest about it, and it's for your own sake, right?
Yeah.
Because we're always afraid of change. We're always afraid of, people saying what they're thinking. Even though we're expecting honesty, we also expect some, I don't know if it's sugarcoating or not, but it's something in between being honest and not being honest, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's really weird. But
Yeah.
when people just wreck it and destroy it, and it's like, God damn it, it's that bad. All right. For me, it's always been a fuel, and I've always preferred honesty over sugarcoating anything. Heck, I got into a lot of problems in time in London because of that, because I got expelled from classes because I was actually, stepping up and going to tutors saying, "What the fuck are you doing? These guys are presenting figure sticks, and you're telling them this is an amazing idea and the concept is really fleshed out. What the fuck is wrong with you guys?" Right? Um, People don't take it, well when you're taking their masks off and saying you're a fraud or you're not doing a good job or you should prepare them for the outside world. Heck, out of a 20 class people, I know 15 and ended up, pleading the whole bachelor's degree, whatever. And none of them is working in the industry. So that goes to show, right, that they were wrong.
Yeah.
I quit on my
Yeah.
first year, and I just kept doing my thing, learning from YouTube, this here, this there, and actually got something out of, dropping out. It's the best decision I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
Then again, after going through, I already had I have a BA honors degree in marketing and a master's degree in audio. I don't know how you call it in translation, but it's like kind of motion graphics stuff, sort of.
Okay.
So I knew the flaws the system had in terms of teaching when I went there. I just didn't know it was so bad.
Yeah,
So,
it's really bad.
Yeah.
I have a neighbor. I hope he doesn't ever hear this, but like, yeah,
I hope it doesn't.
he's a media. He has a job working for some company as their media guy, and he's like my age, or he's actually younger than me, but whatever. Anyway, he teaches at a local school, like in Baltimore or something, and he's like basically their art department, and so with his limited knowledge, he is like the media guru, and he said, "Hey, can you meet with some of my students? These are my top students. These are the guys, these are the ones graduating, and they're about to like launch their careers, and could we all meet and talk about tips and everything of moving forward?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And so we all met at this place called Bar Louie, and everyone was like really professional and excited to talk to me and ask me all these questions, and I answered them. And some of them had brought work, and I just didn't like when they started presenting it to me. I was in awe. I couldn't believe that these were graduates. They were so ill-equipped, and I'm like, I chose not to get into it. I said, if you guys want critiques, you just email me later, and I'll be honest about it, kind of a thing. But so a couple of them did, and apparently their whole system was just being told they were great, and they just thought that they were ready to go. And so I'm like, you're not even on the first step to where you want to be if this is your goal. And so I basically I the two students that emailed me, I said, look, I'm going to be really honest, and I gave them an honest critique, and neither of them wrote me back. Like, all right, well, you asked for my time, I gave it to you, and I don't get anything in return. That's whatever. I'm not gonna be there. Well, that's the thing, is that they just wanted to hear how great they were, and they wanted to be excited about their future, And so, what do you do?
I think that's the worst stepping stone for
Anyway,
that to happen.
it's the same. We're saying the same thing every different way, but yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Just destroy everyone. It's my motto.
Yeah, it's a good motto.
You just like to take it up a notch. But yeah.
No, it's like, honestly, I've always hated these fake reviews, right? This fake bullshit. Don't offend anyone. It's not beneficial to the artist.
Anyone.
Right? And there are people who are doing that and take money from them. It's retarded. It's a fucking steal. Paying a big artist to review your artwork, and he will say, yeah, no matter how shitty it is, they're going to say like, yeah, very good, continue, you're doing great.
Yeah, Like I feel like the miniature painting community has the same problem. Like I hear fucking really pro artists with multiple awards and stuff, and people send them like fucking lumpy, clumpy, fucking mess of a miniature, and they say, "Yeah, good work, you're on a good track." What the fuck? Like after a month of painting, you see what's the problem with it. Because you can't offend anyone, because you will lose your viewers all over.
Well, I don't 100% agree with that because if
Yeah,
people,
I also not agreeing. It's just like that's what I heard. That's why I heard that they do this
Mhm.
that way because they can now.
in my life experience, whatever, I think that there are all sorts of people for all kinds of people, right? And if you're if you are honest about something, then you'll end up surrounded by people that your model of seeing things, doing things attracts, right? So if, even if it's just 10 today, 5 tomorrow, you'll end up building, that community or that niche or that, I don't know how to call it, but you'll slowly build up, that that group of people around you that appreciate you for who you are. You don't have to be a dick about it. You don't have to be, but you just have to be yourself, and you'll attract the right sort of people. And I myself, I was never that sort of person to sugarcoat anything. And well, it comes with a price, right? That price is usually you know, push people away and stuff. But then again, when you find the right people, then they stick around. So, I think that it's kind of actually dangerous to be someone you're not because you get tired of it and it fires back on you one day. That's just my 2 cents.
Hmm.
Oh, I've seen new people join and I forgot to say hi. Hi, Kevin. Hi, Cicada. Anyone else I missed?
I think I've heard that name somewhere. God,
Cicada 3301.
Sorry, guys. We have Mike here telling us stories.
Sorry, man.
No,
I actually stopped talking because I'm like, I've been talking too much.
it's great, man. Keep talking.
Yeah.
Rory, I
I
saw your Rory's one of is he one of your students?
No.
His name is really familiar.
Yeah, I said the same thing, and then I went to our station. I see his art station. And I remember I follow him. A great artist.
Yeah, I know that I've seen his stuff. I just don't remember. I've got a. Oh yeah. Oh my God, yeah. Yep. Yeah, he reminds me of there's a concept artist who is kind of the same ilk. Yeah, this is such good stuff,
Ah,
and it's
I see.
unique.
I see him. Station 2.
What does he remind me of?